But what we can do, find a way to try to accurately assess how strong your schedule is going to be without using last season's data, and just throw it away. I do think that like a team like Jacksonville, they ended the season on a playoff loss. I would bet right now that they end up with more wins than they had last season. Just knowing kind of the direction of where teams are trending is very helpful. A team like the Jets, right? Now we know that they are probably going to win more games that they won last year, not just because they added Aaron Rodgers, but because last season they showed that they could play pretty dominant on the defensive side of the ball. Let's use that. Find the stuff that we can use and let's throw away the stuff that is lazy. Now, with that said, I had kind of a predicament because I knew what I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure exactly how to accomplish it. How do you come up with an accurate assessment without getting too scope locked on last season? And the best way that I could figure out how to do this was to basically create an algorithm like math. And I wanted to go through the algorithm first. Okay, the first thing that I thought that I should do is go on to DraftKings, go on to Las Vegas, FanDuel, basically anybody that is big in the online betting world, and pull the numbers from the over-under that they're projected to win this year. So we're already throwing away the wins and losses last year. I'll also warn you that I was only able to do 4 teams because I spent the entire time creating the algorithm, and until it was fully created, I couldn't apply it to any teams. So I pulled 4 teams and I started building it the way I would, and then I would see holes in my own theory and I would fix those. So it did take an incredible length of time for only 4 teams, but now that I got it down, I will be releasing every team. The ones I did do, I made sure that fans of this channel got to get a look at it first. So I did the Giants, Eagles, just because there's plenty of Eagle fans out there, the Colts for Jinja, and I did the Broncos for me. One thing that I find a little frustrating is that, the house always wins, so it makes sense. But a lot of these teams, you will see that in any regular season, there's a team that ends up with 1 to 3 wins, the laughing stock of the league. And then there's a team like the Eagles that wins all of their games but 2, something like that, which is a ginormous margin. But if you look at the regular season, the way it opens up, you have the Arizona Cardinals who are on the very bottom, and you have to say that they're going to win 6 games if you want to take the over. And then, and the Houston Texans are at 5.5 as well. And then the highest team in here is Kansas City, San Francisco, and they're at 11.5. So a lot of the teams, even though we know that by the end of the season, it's going to be all over the place, the NFL kind of does it where you only have a window this big, and it makes it really difficult because they're making you bet on bad teams and they're making you kind of go all in on good teams. Either way, it's kind of a bad situation. So if I only use the over-unders for the strength of schedule, meaning I only add up what DraftKings is saying the over-under is, and I go through every one of your opponents and I add it all up, it's going to be very close to every other team in the league because they are all very close together. So you wouldn't really have a great assessment on who's got a really tough schedule and who doesn't, because let's say I added all of them up and the Giants were at 135, and then a really easy schedule like the Colts were at 125. Doesn't really tell the whole story. It makes it seem like they're kind of close. So you have to find ways to accurately reflect the parts of the schedule that are going to be difficult, even more than just who they're playing, where they're playing, how far they're playing, how many away games are they playing in a row, how many home games are they playing in a row, who are they playing that's coming off of a bye week, who are they playing after they come off of bye week. Okay, so this is the way the algorithm is going to work. I basically created rules, and I'm going to go through them first, okay? The first rule is that if you're playing an away game back to back, we are going to do +2, okay? Because the higher the number, the more difficult the schedule. The lower the number, the easier the schedule. So for things that are going against you, we're going to be adding. For things that are helping you, we're going to be subtracting. Because playing 2 away games back to back is very difficult, we are going to add 2 if you're playing back to back. If you're playing back to back to back, which would be 3 away games in a row, we're going to add 3. Add 2 points for teams coming off of a bye. So if you're playing a team that is coming off of a bye week, we're going to add 2 because that gives them an advantage. Okay. But just like that, we're also going to subtract 2 if you're coming off of a bye, and whoever you're playing, we're going to -2. Now, this is only relevant if you have 2 teams that are, let's say they have the same bye week and then the next week they play each other. Whoever is playing at home will have the advantage for that bye week. I was trying to figure out how to reflect the difficulty it is to be traveling from, let's say, New York to San Francisco. And I came up with this idea. I'll just do flight hours. So the flight from New Jersey to San Francisco is 6 hours and 3 minutes. So I thought about it and I was like, we'll just do for every hour, we'll do 1. So if it's 6.5 hours, it'd be 6.5. Okay. And I was doing that, and then I ran into a problem. And that problem is just the length of a flight doesn't really tell the whole story about the challenges. For instance, let's say a 4-hour flight from the Northeast all the way down to Miami is not the same as going west, right? Because if you go from the Northeast down to Miami, you're staying in the same time zone. So what I did was I implemented a time zone rule. If you are going to be traveling into another time zone, if you go through one time zone, then we are going to double it. So now it's ×2 for every hour you're flying. If you're going to skip 2 time zones, like when Denver goes to Miami, then you're going to multiply it by 3. Okay. And if you are playing Seattle, like let's say the Giants play Seattle, we are going to take the flight hours and we're going to multiply it by 4. Okay. Now, there is an exception to this. I had to come up with this because I found a hole in Denver's schedule. And here's the example that I'm going to give you. When Denver plays Detroit, they are going to be technically jumping 2 time zones since Detroit is in Eastern time and Denver is in Mountain time. However, the flight is only 2 hours and 45 minutes. So to multiply Denver's 2-hour flight times 3 wouldn't be an accurate assessment of how difficult that travel really is. So I ended up making criteria. Your flight must equal 2 hours per time zone. Okay. So if you're jumping 2 time zones, in order to get credit for that, you have to have at least a 4-hour flight. That gets rid of some of these, I'm on the border of East and Central time, and technically I'm jumping to. We want this to be as freaking accurate as possible. That is pretty much all of the rules for right now. So I'm going to go through the New York Giants as kind of a startup, and we'll go through it pretty slow.